Ever wondered if your business is covered with all the POPI talks about compliance going around? Am I, as an employer, following the correct protocols and what is actually considered personal information? Well, this is Stuff Employers Should Know.
Welcome to Stuff Employers Should Know, proudly brought to you by LabourNet, management's ultimate HR solution.
Don't worry, because we've got you covered. Today, together with Simeon and Riyasha, we navigate through some tips and recommendations for maintaining and using personal information within an HRIS application. From being in the working environment over the years, we have become accustomed to making use of a payroll and HR system to ensure payroll support and HR duties are carried out in a streamlined process. But with that comes safeguarding confidential employee information. This brings about the question, where I have to ask, how can I ensure that HR teams is maintaining and using this personal information correctly?
Hey, yes, good to be back. So firstly, a business needs to understand the legal requirement in South Africa. The recommendation by SARS is to keep the employee information for a period of at least the last 5 years. And this means having the last 5 years of history available for any employee at any given point in time. This information would include, but is not limited to, personal non-financial information, leave information, and then other payroll and HR information such as training records.
We often hear about the garbage in, garbage out principle. This could not be more relevant in the payroll and HR space when it comes to maintaining employee data. Consistent data entry in terms of set process or set protocol that gets followed each time data is captured in the application is essential. Additionally, the regular checking and updating of information is crucial to ensure accuracy of data within the system.
Whoa, this goes to show how we forget how our small day-to-day tasks contribute to so much of the bigger picture, which brings me to my next question. How do we know whom and when it is okay to share this information?
So accessibility and privacy of digital employee data and records must be mapped out by a business and clearly defined. We have to be very careful when it comes to employee information and who we share that with. So strict controls should be in place to inform which individuals are able to access certain types of data, as well as the privacy and confidentiality agreements in place around being privy to these types of details.
With this being said, it is important to ensure training is provided to HR staff in terms of access to and maintenance of confidential employee data. There should be no gray areas in terms of how HR staff interact with employee data on a daily basis, and this should be governed through strict SOPs, which are also known as standard operating procedures.
And Simeon and Riyasha, can you guys tell me, are there any consequences for non-compliance?
Yeah, so there definitely are, and we've seen some big companies in the last few years, some big corporates actually getting some of these types of non-compliance fines and those types of things starting to take place, which is very scary. So yeah, individuals responsible for non-compliance, these are also referred to as criminal penalties, and they can face imprisonment for up to 10 years, or a combination of a fine and imprisonment depending on the severity of the offense. And then you have less serious offenses known as minor offenses, and those penalties can include imprisonment for up to 12 months or a fine or both. So really just to make sure that businesses are compliant.
Then not only with regards to fines and penalties, non-compliance can severely damage a business's reputation, leading to a loss of customer trust and potential loss of business. Non-compliant businesses can be blacklisted, affecting the ability to operate and engage with other companies, and this can have long-term negative impacts on business operations and growth.
Now, of course, we're all human and mistakes happen. What happens if the information erroneously gets deleted or corrupted? What do we do in that situation?
So fortunately, most software applications out there today providing HR and payroll services have backup and disaster recovery plans in place. And This basically ensures that we can retrieve information that may have been deleted or removed unintentionally. And it's very important for business just to understand what that backup and disaster recovery protocol looks like, and having that in place when the employee data is maintained digitally.
And lastly, from my side, companies should conduct periodic internal audits in order to highlight any areas of risks or non-compliance in the area of employee data management. Any findings or risk areas should inform the alignment of internal processes and standard operating procedures to ensure the mitigation of risk for the business into the future.
Simeon and Riasha, thank you so much for a very informative session, and of course displaying how important it is to understand POPI and understand how it affects different aspects within businesses, and of course understanding the risk involved. As always, I really do appreciate your guys' expertise and your time. And of course, to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Stuff Employees Should Know. As always, if you're interested in different topics or if there's something specific that you'd like us to cover, please pop us an email on sesk@labornet.com, and we're glad to get back to you and make that episode happen. But from us here in studio, cheers, and see you in the next one.
Stuff Employers Should Know was proudly brought to you by LaborNet, management's ultimate HR solution. For more episodes from Stuff Employers Should Know, go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you play your favorite shows. Case law or statutes referenced in the podcast are current at the time of recording.